Have you ever been stuck in traffic on a random Tuesday morning, looked at the endless sea of cars around you, and thought, how is everyone affording this? You are surrounded by $60,000 SUVs, brand new trucks, luxury sedans, and people holding $8 coffees. You go online and your feed is just an endless parade of European vacations, kitchen renovations, and perfectly curated lives. And you are sitting there, doing the mental math on your own paycheck, wondering what secret meeting everyone else got invited to that you somehow missed. You feel like you are falling behind, like you are the only one struggling to make the numbers work at the end of the month. Spoiler alert, you didn't miss a meeting, and you are definitely not falling behind. In fact, if you are actually worried about your financial future, you are probably already doing better than the people you are comparing yourself to. Because the truth is, and this is the part nobody wants to talk about, everyone is faking it. The financial reality of the average person is completely terrifying. We are living in a society where looking wealthy has entirely replaced actually being wealthy. My name is Nick, and I help people understand money. Break down the math they don't teach you in school, and build actual wealth instead of just pretending to. If you are tired of feeling like you are losing a game that you don't even know the rules to, make sure to subscribe and hit the like button if this helps you out. Today, we are going to tear down the facade. We are going to look at the exact mathematically proven financial realities of the average person. I am going to give you the real numbers regarding their income, their debt, their savings, and their retirement. And I guarantee you, some of these numbers are going to shock you. Some might make you angry, but by the end of this video, you are going to feel a massive weight lifted off your shoulders, because you'll realize that being average is the absolute last thing you ever want to be. Let's start with the income illusion. When you see someone driving a nice car and living in a nice house, your brain automatically assumes they make a massive amount of money. But let's look at the actual data. The median individual income in the United States right now is floating right around $48,000 to $52,000 a year. Depending on the exact quarter you pull the data from, median means exactly half of the people make more and exactly half make less. It is the literal definition of normal. Now, $50,000 a year sounds like a decent chunk of money until the government gets involved. After federal taxes, state taxes, Social Security, and Medicare, a $50,000 salary leaves you with roughly $39,000 in actual, spendable take-home pay. That is about $3,250 a month. Just think about that number for a second. $3,250 a month. Now, take out rent or a mortgage, which for the average person is taking up well over a third of that. Take out food, take out utilities, take out health insurance. There is mathematically nothing left. And yet, this exact same person is somehow driving a car that costs almost as much as their entire yearly salary. How? How are they doing it? They are doing it with debt. Suffocating, relentless, life-destroying debt. Which brings us to the most shocking reality of the average person, the debt trap. Let's talk about credit cards. The average household right now is carrying roughly $8,000 to $9,000 in credit card debt. Not total debt, just credit card debt. This isn't money owed on an appreciating asset like a house. This is money owed on groceries, dinners out, clothes, vacations they couldn't afford, and random Amazon purchases they don't even remember buying. But it gets so much worse when you look at the math. The average interest rate on a credit card right now is hovering around 22 to 24%. Let's just use 20% to be conservative. If you have $9,000 in credit card debt at 20% interest, you are being charged $1,800 a year just for the privilege of owing the bank money. That is $150 a month vanishing into thin air. You get nothing for it. No goods, no services, no experiences. Just an email from the bank thanking you for your payment. Now, here is where the math gets genuinely scary. Let's say you have that $9,000 balance, and you decide you are just going to make the minimum payments. The minimum payment is usually around 2 to 3% of the balance, so let's call it about $200 a month, if you only pay the minimum, and you never put another single charge on that card, which let's be honest, almost nobody actually stops using the card. But if you did, it would take you almost 9 years to pay it off. 9 years, and in that time, you would pay nearly $9,000 in pure interest. You effectively bought whatever was on that card twice. This is what the average person is doing. They are dragging around this anchor of high-interest consumer debt, paying double for everything they buy, and wondering why they can't seem to get ahead. They are running on a treadmill that keeps speeding up, and they are doing it entirely to maintain a lifestyle that their income doesn't actually support. But credit cards are just the appetizer. Let's talk about the main course of middle-class wealth destruction. Cars. This one drives me absolutely insane because it is so normalized. Buying a car with a loan is single-handedly keeping millions of people trapped in the middle class. The average monthly payment for a new car right now is over $700. For a used car, it is over $500. And people aren't taking out 3-year loans anymore. The average auto loan term is now stretching out to 68, 72, and even 84 months. That is 7 years of paying $700 a month for something that is mathematically guaranteed to lose value every single time you start the engine. Let me paint a picture for you. The average person walks into a dealership, looks at a $50,000 SUV, and the dealer doesn't ask, "Can you afford a $50,000 vehicle?" The dealer asks, "What do you want your monthly payment to be?" And as long as they can stretch the math over enough years to make that monthly payment fit into the buyer's checking account, the buyer drives away thinking they won. They think they outsmarted the system because they got the car they wanted for $699 a month. They didn't win, they just stole from their future self to look cool in traffic today. Let's do the math on what that $700 car payment is actually costing the average person. Let's say instead of financing a depreciating hunk of metal for 6 years, you bought a reliable 10-year-old used Honda or Toyota for cash. It is not sexy, it doesn't have the new car smell. Your neighbors won't be impressed, but you take that exact same $700 a month, and instead of giving it to Ford or Chevy or BMW, you invest it in a simple SETI amp. P500 index fund earning a historical average of about 8%. If you do that for the exact same 72 month, you would have been paying off that car. You wouldn't just have a paid off car at the end. You would have over $63,000 in cash. Let me say that again, $63,000, and if you just left that money alone and never contributed another dime, in 30 years it would grow to over $600,000. That is what the average person is driving around in. They are driving around in a $600,000 mistake. They are trading $500,000 of future wealth for heated seats and a touchscreen. And they are doing it every 5 to 7 years. They pay off one car, they feel good about it for a few months, and then they trade it in for a new one, starting the cycle of poverty all over again. This is why everyone looks so rich but is actually completely broke. They are financing everything. The phones in their pockets are financed on a 3-year plan with their cell carrier. The couches they are sitting on are financed through a furniture store with 0% down. The clothes they are wearing were bought using buy now, pay later apps. We have built an entire economy around slicing up the cost of things people can't afford into tiny monthly payments so they don't feel the pain of being broke. But the pain is there. It shows up when we look at the average person's savings account. According to numerous studies, nearly 60% of Americans cannot comfortably cover a $1,000 emergency from their savings. If the transmission blows on that financed car, or the dog swallows a sock and needs surgery, or the air conditioner dies in the middle of July, they do not have $1,000 in cash to fix it. What do? They put it on the credit card. The credit card that already has a $9,000 balance. The debt compounds. The stress compounds. The anxiety of knowing that you are one piece of bad luck away from absolute financial ruin is a heavy, heavy burden to carry. And yet, this is the normal baseline for the majority of the population. You might be thinking, well, maybe they don't have cash, but surely they are building equity. Surely they own homes. Let's talk about the housing mirage. Owning a home has always been sold as the ultimate American dream. The foolproof way to build wealth. And yes, real estate can be a phenomenal investment. But for the average person today, the house isn't an asset. It is a trap. People are buying houses they absolutely cannot afford because society tells them that renting is throwing money away. So they scrape together a 3% down payment, they pay private mortgage insurance, and they take on a mortgage that consumes 40 or 50% of their take-home pay. They become what we call house poor. When you are house poor, you technically own a piece of property. Though really the bank owns it for the next 30 years, but you have zero margin in your life. You have a beautiful kitchen, but you can't afford to put food in the fridge. You have a nice backyard, but you can't afford to buy patio furniture. Every single time a pipe leaks or a roof shingle blows off, or the property taxes get reassessed, it triggers a full-blown financial crisis because there is no cash buffer. And the psychological toll this takes is enormous. The average person is terrified of losing their job. Not just because they like working, but because if they miss exactly 2 paychecks, the entire house of cards collapses. They will default on the house, the car will get repossessed, and the credit cards will go to collections. They are living on a financial razor's edge. But they are doing it behind the front door of a $500,000 suburban home, so nobody knows they are suffocating. This brings us to the darkest part of the average person's financial reality. The part that people try to ignore until they are in their late 50s and it is simply too late to fix. Retirement. How much do you think the average person has saved for retirement? We established that they have no cash, high credit card debt, and massive car payments. So it shouldn't be a surprise that their retirement accounts are basically empty. According to the Federal Reserve, the median retirement account balance for Americans aged 55 to 64 is roughly $185,000. Now, if you are 22 years old, $185,000 probably sounds like a lot of money, but remember, this is for someone who is literally about to stop working forever. Let's do the math on what $185,000 actually buys you in retirement. In the financial planning world, there is something called the 4% rule. It basically says that if you want your retirement savings to last for 30 years, you should only withdraw 4% of the total balance in your first year of retirement. 4% of $185,000 is $7,400. $7,400 for the entire year, that is roughly $616 a month. Imagine working for 45 years, waking up to an alarm clock, dealing with terrible bosses, commuting through horrible traffic, missing your kids' soccer games, stressing over performance reviews, doing all of that for 4.5 decades, and your reward at the end is $616 a month. Even if you add in the average Social Security benefit, which right now is around $1,900 a month, you are looking at a total retirement income of about $2,500 a month. Could you live on $2,500 a month right now? With inflation pushing the cost of everything to the moon, probably not comfortably, and yet, that is what the average person is marching towards. This is why you see so many people in their 70s still working at grocery stores or driving for Uber. They aren't doing it because they love staying active. They are doing it because they mathematically cannot afford to stop. They spent their 20s, 30s, and 40s upgrading their lifestyle, buying new cars, and financing furniture. And now, they are paying the ultimate price. They traded their freedom in their old age for the appearance of success in their youth. Let's look at the younger demographics, just to show you that this isn't getting any better. For people aged 35 to 44, the prime earning years where compound interest has the most power to build massive wealth, the median retirement balance is a depressing $45,000. $45,000. By the time you are 40, you should ideally have 3 times your annual salary saved for retirement. If you make $60,000 a year, you should have $180,000 invested. The average person has a fraction of that. Why? Because society has completely normalized spending everything you make. If you get a raise at work, what do? You don't invest it. You upgrade your apartment. You trade in your car for a nicer one. You start buying more expensive alcohol. It is called lifestyle creep, and it is the silent killer of wealth. The average person's expenses rise perfectly in tandem with their income. It doesn't matter if they make $40,000 a year or $140,000 a year. They will always find a way to spend it all, leaving absolutely zero margin for their future. And the really crazy part, the people making $140,000 are often the brokest ones of all. Let's talk about the myth of the high-income earner. We have this idea that doctors, lawyers, and corporate executives are all swimming in cash. But data shows that an astonishing percentage of 6-figure earners are also living paycheck to paycheck. How does a household making $150,000 a year end up broke? It is incredibly easy. First, taxes take a massive bite out of that high income. Second, they fall victim to what I call the "I deserve it" tax. They work long, stressful hours, so they tell themselves they deserve the luxury car, they deserve the $5,000 vacation to Tulum, they deserve to eat at the high-end steakhouse. They buy a house in the absolute best school district because they feel they have to, which means an astronomical mortgage and punishing property taxes. Before they know it, their $150,000 income is entirely spoken for by recurring monthly obligations. They have golden handcuffs. They look incredibly rich to everyone on the outside. They wear the designer clothes. They post the amazing Instagram photos. But if they lose their high-paying job, they will be bankrupt in 90 days. They are playing the exact same dangerous game as the person making $50,000, just with more expensive toys and farther to fall. So, what is the actual psychology behind all of this? Why are smart, capable people willingly destroying their financial futures? It all comes down to status. Human beings are biologically wired to care about status. In the past, status meant having the most food or the strongest shelter. Today, status is signaled through consumption. We buy things not for their utility, but for what they tell other people about our place in the hierarchy. When a person buys a luxury watch, they are not buying it because it tells time better than a $20 Casio. They are buying it to signal to everyone in the room that they are successful. When they buy the giant house, they are doing it so their friends and family will come over and be impressed. The average person is sacrificing their actual freedom to buy the respect of people they don't even really like. They are spending money they don't have, to buy things they don't need, to impress people who do not care. Because here is the harsh reality: nobody actually cares about your car, nobody cares about your house. When you drive down the street in a nice car, nobody looks at you and thinks, "Wow, that person is so cool." They look at the car and think, "Wow, if I had that car, people would think I am cool." They are imagining themselves in your place. You are completely invisible to them. And yet, you are paying $700 a month, plus premium gas, plus high insurance rates, just to serve as a prop in someone else's fantasy. It is the worst return on investment in the history of the world. So where does this leave us? I've just spent the last chunk of time outlining how the average person is drowning in debt, has no savings, is driving a car they can't afford, living in a house that makes them miserable, and has absolutely no hope of ever retiring comfortably. It sounds bleak, it sounds hopeless, but here is why this is actually the best news you could possibly hear today. Because the average is terrible, beating the average is incredibly easy. You do not need to be a Wall Street genius to become wealthy. You do not need to start a billion-dollar tech company. You do not need to day trade crypto or flip real estate. All you have to do to be incredibly successful is to look at what the average person is doing and do the exact opposite. If the average person finances cars, you buy used cars with cash. If the average person carries credit card debt, you pay your balance in full every single month. If the average person saves less than 5% of their income, you automate your finances so you are investing 20%. If the average person buys a house at the absolute maximum limit of what the bank approves them for, you buy a house that is vastly underneath your means. It is that simple. Wealth is not a math problem. Wealth is a behavioral problem. It is about emotional control. It is about having the discipline to say no to things today so that you can have absolute freedom tomorrow. You have to accept that if you want to live a life that the average person cannot live, you have to be willing to do things that the average person refuses to do. That means you might have to drive an embarrassing car for a few years. Let people judge you. Who cares? Their judgment doesn't pay your bills. It means you might have to tell your friends that you can't go to that expensive brunch this weekend because it is not in your budget. Let them think you are cheap, while they are splitting a $200 bill on scrambled eggs and mimosa pitchers using a credit card they can't pay off. You will be buying shares of companies that pay you dividends while you sleep. It means you might not have the perfectly decorated house to show off on social media, but you will have something so much more valuable. You will have peace. Imagine waking up in the morning and knowing that your car is fully paid for. Imagine knowing that if you get fired today, you have a year's worth of expenses sitting in a high-yield savings account, and your life won't change one bit. Imagine looking at your retirement accounts and knowing, with absolute mathematical certainty, that you will be able to stop working at age 55, while all of your coworkers are stressed out about working until they are 70. That level of peace is available to you, but you have to choose it. You have to actively opt out of the culture of consumption. You have to stop playing the game that the banks, the marketers, and society have designed for you to lose. The average person is broke, the average person is stressed, the average person is trapped. Don't be average. You now know the rules. You know the math, you see behind the curtain. The only question left is what you are going to do about it starting right now.